I'm Mash Ponigala, brand strategist at Spellbrand. In today's video, we're talking about going after non-customers. So what does it really mean? What is non-customers? Now, in any typical industry, with any typical business, companies are looking at their core customer base, which is fantastic. And in fact, I created many videos in the past talking about customer analysis, building up buyer personas, customer avatars, and things like that, so that you get a deep understanding of your customers. Now, once you get a deep understanding of your customers, you can then build both a positioning strategy as well as a messaging strategy. Because if you don't understand your customers, then how are you going to communicate effectively with them, right? So that is the traditional way, and you should be doing that all the time. Understanding your customers, working, analyzing the customer segments, and so on and so forth. But today, I'm talking about something different. This is the non-customers. So for any business, you have the core customer base, but there's also non-customers. These people are either they're not considered to be customers, so companies and businesses in that market segment, they don't go after this segment, or they are believed to be either refusing the product or service of that market segment, or they're not interested. But if you think about it, especially now, there's lots of changes going on in the kind of competitive landscape in the world with pandemics, economic kind of recessions and things like that. The best thing you can do for your brand is really to expand your horizon. This is, of course, a series of videos on how to go from a red ocean into a blue ocean, right? So that means in the red ocean, you have everyone, all the businesses competing for the same customer segment, so there's blood in the water, so on and so forth. I keep talking about it in every video. And then you have the blue ocean, where you are alone in the sense, in that ocean, and you have no competitors effectively. Now, to do that, one of the best ways is to look at non-customers, because you're missing a lot of latent kind of customer base by only focusing on the customers that are within the red ocean. That means all the different businesses, all your competitors, including yourself, are all competing and focusing on that segment. Now, what happens is that a lot of your resources, a lot of everybody's resources, and time and effort and money is being spent on trying to attract those customers, stealing customers from your competitors, and so on and so forth. So it's highly ineffective, at least now, and it's also kind of won't give you the kind of growth that you would like. So today we will look at 3 different types of non-customers and how to identify them. We'll look at a couple of examples and see how it's a change or shift in perspective on how you look at customers, how you look at non-customers, and so on. All right, so let's sort of first of all look at the 3 tiers of non-customers. Okay, so the 3 tiers of non-customers. You can see this kind of illustration. You've got these concentric circles. The red concentric, the red ellipse shows you the current market, right? So these are the current market customers. And then you have tier 1, which is soon to be customers. Now, soon to be non-customers. Now, soon to be non-customers are on the edge of your market, waiting to jump ship. Now, what does that mean? It means that these people or customers, they're on the edge of your market segment, but they are really desperately waiting to jump ship. That means they are not really happy with the offerings, they are not happy with the products or services and the brands within that space, but they are being customers just because they have no other choice. So they are forced to be customers of a particular product or service. And they have a lot of pain points, and they're putting up with those pain points because they have no other option. But if an option that comes up and it touches on those pain points, they're going to jump ship. So they are latent. This is like a whole bunch of customer segment that can jump to the right offering, the right product or service that comes along. And of course, the right offering, product or service means that it's something that actually addresses their pain points. Okay, that's one non-customer segment. Then you have the next tier, tier 2, which is refusing non-customers who consciously choose against your market. That means these guys, this customer segment, well, non-customer segment, they're not customers of your product or service. In fact, they are actively refusing to enter the market. So they're not buying those products either because, number one, they're expensive, so they're unaffordable, or because they just feel that they are not adequate to their needs. And we will look at some examples and that will become more clear. So that's refusing non-customers. Then you have the unexplored non-customers who are in markets distant from yours. Now what that means is that these guys, guys and girls, this market segment of non-customers has not been considered to be customers by the market segment, right? By your competitors, by yourself, by the industry standard, by the leaders. And these are hidden. Actually, no one even thinks about them, right? So these are the 3 tiers of non-customers. And if you think about it, these 3 tiers have so much latent customer population that it's amazing. Once you start thinking about it and looking for these opportunities, it'll be amazing how much you kind of market segment and money you're leaving on the table. And to be a successful blue ocean brand, that means to move away from competition, to make competition irrelevant, you need to look at the 3 tiers of non-customers. All right, let's look at some examples of these 3 tiers of non-customers so that it becomes clear on what it really means and how you can go about identifying these non-customers within your own market segment. All right, so the first example of tier 1 non-customers, that is these people are customers of a particular segment, but they're waiting to jump ship, right? So they're like, they don't like that particular market segment. And that is people working in offices, working in shops, and looking for a good lunch, right? So traditionally what happened is that office workers and managers or anybody, they would go to sit down restaurants and have lunch there, or cafeterias. But the thing with that is, first of all, people started considering eating in restaurants unhealthy on a daily basis, right? So occasionally that's okay, but when you're in office and then every lunchtime, you go, you find a restaurant, you sit and eat. Unhealthy. Number 2, expensive. So because of that, a lot of people were bringing maybe brown bags from home, or they would just go to cafeterias. But then again, in cafeterias, what you find is like pastries and things, maybe sandwiches, but it's time taking, and maybe sometimes even expensive. So this market segment, which is the restaurants, cafeterias, all these were actually focusing only on the customers who were coming and sitting down and eating and so on and so forth. Pret-a-manger then came along in 1986. and they looked at the market segment. And in any given market segment, right, when you're looking at non-customers, you need to look at the kind of commonalities of people, these common factors. And once you identify the common factors of pain points, then you can think about how your product or service can be positioned, right? So when they looked at the segment, they found the pain points such as they want speedy lunch, they want a healthy lunch, and they want it at a reasonable price. And therefore, Pret a Manger was born. And you can see Pret a Manger, of course, is highly effective, very convenient, right? They designed their stores in such a way that you walk in, yeah, there may be a queue, but it's fast moving, and all the sandwiches and different kinds of food is displayed. You pick and choose, you go to the counter, you pay, and of course sometimes you can just stand and eat there, or you can go out, sit in a park or whatever. And the packaging was very clever, beautiful packaging, easy to use, fantastic. Now that is a blue ocean. And once they came in, I mean, you would find Pret a Mangers almost, especially in Europe, everywhere, right? Everywhere. Every street has one. And they made the competition irrelevant, right? They did not have, even now, it's hard. Yeah, well, now cafeterias and coffee shops, of course, they have sandwiches, and they're trying to package them because food companies, that's how the blue ocean, food processing companies started packaging so they could sell to cafeterias and coffee shops and things like that. Supermarkets have come up with a similar, I mean, this photo here you're seeing, this is Pret a Manger, but if you remove the logo and all that, that could be a display cabinet in a supermarket, right? So that is how Pret a Manger attacked tier 1 non-customers, right? People who were ready to jump ship, because all those professionals, they jumped ship. They stopped going to restaurants, sit-down restaurants. They moved to Pret a Manger. Every day they would go, they would eat, they would buy, they would feel healthy because most of them were relatively healthy options. That is tier 1. Next, we're looking at tier 2. So tier 2 kind of customers, these guys are refusing non-customers, right? Who consciously choose against your market. What that means is they do have a need for that product, for the product or service, but they're refusing. They don't want to buy either because it doesn't suit them or because they cannot afford it. Now, the example is JC Diesel, right? JC Diesel. These guys are advertising like giants, right? They're an advertising company. Now, prior to JC Diesel's kind of entry into this non-customer segment, right? Advertising was typically, in the real world, you had billboards. Now, these billboards were on the outskirts of the city or on highways, maybe sometimes on streets, but not really. And also on buses, on taxis, yellow cabs, like that. Now, these were expensive and not really suitable for everyone, right? So because on highways, on kind of like billboards, the huge billboards, they are very expensive, and also that's for a population, the target audience that is driving, and then maybe they might catch a glimpse. Buses, taxis, yellow cabs, the same. These are moving and so on. Then JCD kind of looked at it and said, what are we missing here, right? Everybody's fighting for the companies, the customers who wanted billboards, who were ready to pay for billboards. What about businesses that could not afford billboards? The commonality was they needed this non-customers were refusing to buy billboards or other transport like on buses and things is because they wanted something cheaper. They wanted something that was more static, and they wanted something that was more prevalent, right? So they came up with the idea of street furniture advertising. And this, for example, here, this is a bus stop, you got posters, and yeah, L'Oreal, I can imagine, yes, they are huge, they can pay for it, but also look at this, the Tour de France, right? And then there's another poster, I think that's an NHS poster, and these are not, well, NHS, yes, can afford it, but usually these are customer segments that don't want to pay for huge billboards because billboards don't make sense. This is a simple poster for Tour de France, and it's simple, easy, cheaper. That is how JCDSO, for example, tackled refusing customers. What about new market segment? Who are your refusing customers, right? Who could be a customer segment, but they are not entering your market segment. They're not buying from you. Who could that be? Sit down and think through. And you can only think through, again, if you look at pain points. What are the pain points that potential customers are not entering into the market, are not becoming customers because of these pain points? Or rather, they're actively refusing, right? Think through and you will find opportunities. And then you can either go into that new market segment using or coming up with a new product or service, or you could tailor, tweak, and pivot your existing products or services so that you can target those people who are refusing your other products, or they're refusing the other competitor products. Yes, it is slightly confusing, but if you think about it, it is quite logical. So you have tier 1, which is people are already customers, but they are reluctant customers, right? They are ready to jump ship. That means effectively in their mind, they're already not your customers, right? That means any new entrant that comes into the market, a new business, new brand comes into the market, and these people are gone. That means you and your direct competitors, you're going to lose these customers. And it's going to happen. It's just like a ticking time bomb, right? So they're waiting to jump ship. Why don't you look after them? Why don't you come up with something that will cater to them so that they remain your customers? In fact, they actually, your customer base increases. That's tier 1. Then you have tier 2, which is these guys are refusing non-customers. That means they want it. They want that service. They know that they need that service or product, which is what you're providing, what your competitors are providing, but they're refusing to buy from you or your competitors because either it's because it's expensive or it doesn't really match their requirement. So look at the pain points. Of course, you may not be able to do much about the price point, but what if you came up with alternatives that would match the price point that they're looking for, and it actually fits their requirement? So it's a smaller version, maybe, less bells and whistles, and at a cheaper price point. That is a whole new. So all the refusing non-customers will become your customers. If you don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. It's just a matter of time. All right. So let's now look at the third tier. So the third tier is the unexplored non-customers who are in markets distance from yours. A great example is teeth whitening, right? So traditionally, teeth whitening was believed to be and accepted to be done by dentists, right? So people would go to a dentist and get their teeth whitened. And this was for years and years and years. And it's surprising how no one really looked at this market and said, hang on, there's an opportunity here. These guys are all non-customers. They came up with teeth whitening products that you can use at home, or they came up with teeth whitening clinics. So a whole new market segment came up. And so they were looking at people who were non-customers. And non-customers, everyone. People don't even realize that they need teeth whitening, right? In those days when you would only go to the dentist, because you would get your teeth whitened if you felt the need for it, and most people did not feel the need for it. So they were dormant. They were dormant customer segment, sleeping customer segment, so to speak. So teeth whitening companies came up and woke them up. They said, you need to whiten your teeth. And so they came up with marketing campaigns and messaging, and people started realizing, people who would have never in a million years thought of whitening their teeth started looking at this advertising and looking at these viable, easy options. Just order them, get the kit home, and then go for it. And that really opened up a tremendous amount of customers, right? So these are unexplored market segments. And think about it, in your own market segment, who could be unexplored? The other day, I did a video on, again, about not competing, and I was talking about this example of ActiFry, right? So French fry kind of machine. And before they came, that market segment was a red ocean. French fry deep fryers, right? These machines where there's hot oil, and then you put your French fries, they fry, and then you take it out. And it was a red ocean because it was a commodity, right? And so they were the industry leaders. They would then come up with new features, and the rest of the market segment, the rest of the brands had to catch up with them. And it was price points, so it was cheaper. It was chaos. Then Actify, Tefal, the French company, right? So they looked at this and said, hang on, there's no point in competing. I'm just trying to compete for that market segment, right? Let's look at non-customers. They said, why were these people non-customers? Number one, safety. Hot oil, dangerous accidents. Number two, unhealthy. Deep frying. So you pour oil in, deep fry, and sometimes you use the same oil again and again, and carcinogenic agents, unhealthy. And then of course there was it was not clean, right? So it was greasy. You had to get rid of the oil after you're done, and yeah, it was just a nightmare. So they said these three things are the common kind of pain points of non-customers. A lot of people did not fry French fries at home because of this, right? They were not buying those machines. They didn't want to. So there was refusing customers. There was unexplored. And of course, there were people who were ready to jump ship. They just didn't know that. So there were all three tiers of non-customers. They came up with a ActiFry, which needed just 1 tablespoon of oil, just to, just like a coating. That's it. Induction technology, I think. And you get these beautiful French fries, which 1 teaspoon or tablespoon of oil. So there was no mess. You can just clean it with a tissue. Healthy, relatively healthy, and of course yummy. So a lot of people using these, a lot of customers of the traditional French fry machines jumped ship. The people who were refusing to eat French fries at home became customers, and suddenly people started realizing, a lot of people, unexplored, they were like, oh, hang on, we could have delicious French fries at home. So they did that. So just like that, think about it. In your market segment, think about how you can target non-customers, right? From today, as much time you spent on figuring out your customers and trying to steal customers from your competition, trying to gain more mind share, you got to keep doing that, yes, but also spend some time, effort, and resources into figuring out who your non-customers are. What are the common pain points that they have, and how you can win them across. All right? Okay, so I hope you found this useful. I will be exploring more of these topics to help you take your brand from the red ocean to the blue ocean. And if you're interested, of course, I'm going to leave a link below, and you can schedule a video call with me directly so we can spend an hour talking about your market segment, your competition, your non-customers, and how you can sort of figure out your positioning, your messaging to meet those non-customers, right? If you're not in that business, and if you're just interested, leave a comment below and I will try and answer it for you. All right? Till my next video, take care.